of that one, the feeling of the awareness of that oneness stays with us. It is not, at that time, it is intellectual, whereas the moment you experience it, it is spiritual, it is emotional. Anyway, you have tried to do that justice to this poetry. And I will conclude this. I will only say that it is a privilege to read this poem and introduce this poem. And the production of this book, it would be unfair if I do not comment about the wonderful, masterly production of this book. Poetry books have to be produced well, because it is a gift of God. I think it has been done with so much of love and affection. So it invites everybody to read these poems. So yielding to that temptation, may also read the last portion of your last poem, 8 lines. With that, I'll conclude. These lines read, after the rain, a glimmer of sky, glimpsed among clouds, lustrous with nothing. One wonderful thing about your poetry is you do not unnecessarily use adjectives. You are very economical with words because you understand the seriousness and the beauty and worth of words. You cannot throw away like a newly rich, newish fellow, trying to throw away money. So here, the rays create fans of light, arrayed against emptiness, rainbows upon the grain. The ragas come together again in the fusion of void and play. And through all runs the same theme, the same image unseen. There was a girl I loved once. Ishavasya idam sarvam. That is probably, if I may use the Ishavasya Upanishad's opening line, I think that is a wonderful coinage, Ishavasya idam sarvam. So once we feel that, Pariksith cannot be a Pariksith who existed before writing this poetry. Post this book, Pariksith is not a doctor who treats your body, but he has recipes for your spiritual ailments as well. I wish you, Dr. Singh, all the accolades that your poetry could attract, because this poetry deserves all kinds of support and appreciation and accolades. Thank you very much for giving an opportunity to be associated with this wonderful, pleasing program. Thank you very much.
So we invite Dr. Singh to give a broad framework about these 2 books that he has published.
Thank you, Usha-ji. Thank you, Jay Kumar-ji. It's a wonderful introduction. I'm grateful, I'm humbled with your kind words. Thank you, Mandira-ji and Mridula-ji, for having me here. And my connection, of course, with Indian poetry is old. I grew up in India, my first 25 years, lived in Jaipur and then went to Pondicherry and went to New Delhi and lived there. So I carry India with me and India carries me within itself. And a lot of these poems came about 5 years ago, especially There Was a Girl I Loved Once. And it's, I probably should not say what it came from, but it's that love for one's mother, one's motherland, and the unknown mother whom we feel very close to, but she's so vast that she escapes our mind. But we can still, with our feeling, try to hold the eternal feminine, the feminine power and Shakti that keeps us together. And these poems started suddenly on actually a Makar Sankranti day when I was sitting. And of course, as you know, India is going through a lot of changes, some good, some not so good, but I think a huge churning is happening. And this is a very emotional time for someone who's been connected deeply with one's motherland. And so it was for me. But looking at our motherland in a broader frame, not just restricting her to a geography, what does she mean to me? And of course, emotions, a lot of feelings, a lot of connection to when I was born. The world was a quieter place. Our city itself, the Pink City, was a well designed, one of the most beautiful cities in the world, heritage cities, and now it is becoming a concrete jungle, and which is happening, all urbanization is happening, so we are losing some of that innocence, and yet we cannot stay closed and not try to have everyone come up, which is a tremendous desire among our youth coming, and then seeing the glaring difference between those of us who are very fortunate and those of us who are not. That anguish comes, and being a physician, that anguish may be somewhat exaggerated, because we also see people with extreme medical conditions. And that engagement with patients, with humans, I think all of that came together in this volume of poetry. I've been writing for a long time, since my early days in school, and it came naturally to just try to express, just articulate. Fortunately, I did not go into literature, although I would have loved to. I went into medicine because I wanted to be a physician. And being a very idealistic young man, I thought I would be able to help people and cure life's ills. And then when you come to the world of reality, you realize how limited your ability and reach is, because the human condition is far more complex and vast compared to what we had idealized. And yet that grounding, that bringing back to reality, realizing your human limitations, kind of frees you up, frees your imagination, frees your feelings. You may feel a lot, you may not be able to do much, and that may sometimes come through one's poetry and express what you could not do, say, with your patients, where you have to have that professional exterior and a more objective look. And so I think this is something that has enhanced me as a physician. I'm able to come back in touch with my feelings, because otherwise we lose contact with who we are, getting into the pharmaceutical and the drug and the allopathic system, and just testing and just trying to fix diseases, rather than dealing with the human being. That sensitivity has been a blessing that has come through being a doctor, and the ability to express, I think, keeps me able to look up still at the stars while my feet are on earth. And even through the anguish that we all are going through collectively, the good, the bad, and the not so good and the bad, something even worse, all those things are within us. All the so-called contradictions are within us. Yet, through all these 9 rasas, we still have some beautiful, nurturing presence of our motherland, of our mother tongue, of our ancient civilization and culture, that brings us beautifully some truths in a more, and trying to express it in a modern language. So these are, I think, India is, of course, a merging of so many different peoples and languages and cultures, and yet there is an internal consistency. And the humble attempt, which was not really an attempt, which was more a spontaneous outpouring, was to write about my mother in different forms, human form, suprahuman form, as a country, as a civilization, and as that eternal unknown to whom we aspire and seek our succor and seek our comfort every day through all our anguish. So that's what I have. I'm very grateful to be in touch in some ways with my motherland. I'm grateful, and thank you, Jai Kumarji, for a most beautiful introduction, because it makes me very, it touches me deeply, because you have essentially gone and touched my heart, and what I was trying to say, you have said it better than I, and I'm very grateful to you for that. So Usha ji, if you tell me, I pass it back to you and you direct us and tell me what I need to do.
Yes, but I was just wondering that if you could just also tell us few remarks about the other book, the one in Hindi, Swayam Se Parichay. Is it influenced by your feelings or perceptions about your native land, or there are other some reasons for it?
तो स्वयं से परिचय मेरा हिंदी में कविता लिखने का प्रयास है। मेरी हिंदी एक और मेरा जो संबंध है मेरी माँ से, मेरी भूमि से, और हिंदी में लिखने की मेरी आरंभ से अभीपसा रही है, इच्छा रही है। हिंदी में मैं समझता हूँ बहुत कुछ किया जा सकता है और नए प्रयोग से, नए तरह की विधाओं से हम हिंदी साहित्य को और बढ़ा सकते हैं। बंगाली में तो बड़े महान कवि हुए थे जिन्हें हम जानते हैं, टैगोर हुए थे, और उनके साथ एक साहित्य का एक जो रेनेसांस जो कहते हैं वो हुआ। हिंदी में भी बड़े महान कवि हुए, पर उस उपलब्धि तक या उस प्रसिद्धि तक जिसे कहना चाहिए, हम हिंदी साहित्य नहीं पहुंच पाया। टैगोर महान कवि थे, हिंदी में भी महान कवि हुए हैं जैसे निराला, दिनकर जी, बाद में अज्ञेय जी, किंतु उसको वह सम्मान नहीं मिल पाया मेरे विचार से। और हिंदी साहित्य में और काम करना बहुत आवश्यक है। मुझे तो हिंदी भी बहुत आनंदमय प्रतीत होती है और उर्दू में भी मुझे बहुत मजा आता है। मेरी उर्दू इतनी फसी और साफ नहीं है, क्योंकि हमें जब संस्कृत और हिंदी पढ़ाई गई थी तो हिंदी पे अधिक
ध्यान दिया था,
जोर दिया गया था, तो हम हिंदी में ज्यादा बोलते थे। तो हिंदी की कविताएं लिखने से एक तो प्रयोग यह है कि आत्म अन्वेषण, खुद की खोज कैसे कर सकते हैं, भाषा को लेकर, अपने विचारों को लेकर, अपने आप से कैसे साक्षात्कार कर सकते हैं। मैं कौन हूं, यह तो बहुत प्राचीन प्रश्न है, और पूरा भारतीय दर्शन इस मैं और अहम और स्वयं की खोज में लगा हुआ है। हम अगर वेद भी पढ़ते हैं तो वेद में, वेद से शुरू होते हुए संस्कृत साहित्य में, उपनिषद में तो इस प्रश्न को वेदांत की ऊंचाइयों तक ले जाया गया। उसके बाद विभिन्न विभिन्न कवि, महान कवि हुए, कालिदास जी, भर्तृहरि जी, और उसके बाद जब आधुनिक हिंदी आई तो उसमें भी यह प्रश्न हमारे साहित्य में, दर्शन में, काव्य में हमेशा रहता है पीछे कहीं ना कहीं। और अब आजकल मॉडर्न एग्जिस्टेंशियलिज्म, अस्तित्ववाद जो है, सार्त्र और हाइडेगर, काफ्का, कमू, इन सब महान दार्शनिकों की ने इसको और आगे बढ़ाया। तो हिंदी में एक तो साहित्य को बढ़ाने का विचार है, साहित्य से प्रेम है, और हिंदी में प्रयोग करने का प्रयास था, और स्वयं को समझने का भी प्रयास था कि यह मैं कौन है और ये तुम कौन है। हम जिस ईश्वर से हम साक्षात्कार करते हैं और ईश्वर से प्रार्थना करते हैं, यह ईश्वर कौन है, और ईश्वर तो रहस्यमय है, ईश्वर को इतनी आसानी से शब्दों में बांधा नहीं जा सकता। किंतु फिर भी यह प्रयास है कि उनके इस रहस्य को, उनकी इस अद्भुत सकारात्मक और नकारात्मक रूपों को किस तरह शब्दों में प्रस्तुत किया जाए और आध्यात्म को किस तरह जीवन में लाया जाए। तो यह मेरा छोटा सा प्रयास था, और इसके मुझे लगता है कि एक दो मैंने कुछ उर्दू से भी जो पहर होती है, उर्दू की लय है, वो थोड़ी लेने की कोशिश की। गजल का जो माध्यम है उसको मैंने, उस विधा को लाने की कोशिश की जो पहले महान हिंदी कवियों ने, जैसे दुष्यंत कुमार जी ने भी उसमें बहुत प्रयोग किए। तो यह भी एक छोटा सा प्रयास है, और मेरा इसमें विश्वास है कि हिंदी आलोचना, हिंदी काव्य और अनुवाद में बहुत काम करना शेष है। और हम सभी कवि अगर इसमें जुटें तो हमारा काव्य भी उतना ही महान और प्रसिद्ध होगा जितना हमारे देश में बंगाली काव्य और उर्दू काव्य हुआ है।
धन्यवाद डॉक्टर सिंह। मैं अब रुख करना चाहती हूँ मृदुला जी की ओर। मृदुला जी, आपके अपने विचार इन दोनों पुस्तकों के, डॉक्टर सिंह की जो दो ये पुस्तकें हैं, उन पर आपके विचार हमसे शेयर करेंगे।
हाँ, मेरे पास तो स्वयं से परिचय पुस्तक आई है और उस पर ही हम पढ़ के विचार, जो भी यही पुस्तक हम तक पहुंची है। सुनाई पड़ रहा है?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी, हाँ जी, प्लीज।
यहाँ पैनल में उपस्थित सभी लोगों को मेरा सादर प्रणाम। साथ ही मुझे इस पुस्तक परिचर्चा में आमंत्रित करने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आज यहाँ परीक्षित सिंह की कविता संग्रह स्वयं से परिचय पर कुछ कहने का अवसर है। मुझे पहली बार ही इनका लिखा पढ़ने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ है और ऐसा लग रहा है कि रचनाओं के माध्यम से लेखक को जानना मन में एक अलग प्रकार की जिज्ञासा जगाती है। बिना किसी पूर्वाग्रह के रचनाएं खुद को प्रस्तुत करती हैं और पढ़वा लेती हैं। न तो मैं परीक्षित सिंह को पहले से जानती हूँ, न ही उनके लेखन को, अतः एक जिज्ञासु पाठक के रूप में मैं ये पुस्तक पढ़ी हूँ। बेहद कोमल शब्दों के सौजन्य से कविताएं रची गई हैं, जिन्हें पढ़ते हुए एक मखमली एहसास होता है। छोटी छोटी कविताएं भी अधूरी नहीं लगती, बल्कि अपनी पूर्णता को सहेजती चलती हैं, मन की गहराई में उतरती चलती हैं। कवि की संवेदनशीलता कविता की पंक्तियों में साफ साफ परिलक्षित होती है। इसी संदर्भ में इस पुस्तक की दो कविताएं यहाँ उद्धृत करना चाहूंगी, जो मुझे बहुत पसंद है। पहली कविता का शीर्षक है भेंट। भेंट। कभी कभी सवेरे की सैर में तुमसे मिलना हो जाता है। दूर से ही प्रणाम कर लेता हूँ, इस डर से कि तुम कहीं हाल चाल ना पूछने लगो। तुम्हारी पारखी दृष्टि को वैसे भी सब ज्ञात है, फिर कैसे छिपाऊं इतने झूठ, इतनी कृत्रिम परिस्थितियां। तो मैं भी शीघ्रता से नमस्कार कर आगे चल देता हूँ। क्या जाने तुम क्या पूछ लो, फिर अगले कई सप्ताह मुझे सब कुछ समझाने में लगे। तो बस मौन प्रणाम ही स्वीकार कर लो जब भी मिलो। इतने अंतरंग हो तो सफाई की भी क्या आवश्यकता, जैसे हूँ उसी को स्वयं समझकर अपना लो। कितने सादा शब्दों में कितनी प्यारी कविता है। और दूसरी कविता जो छोटी होने के बावजूद भी बेहद प्रभावशाली है, उसका शीर्षक है जैन। जैन। अपना मौन तुम्हें भेजता हूँ, अपना मौन तुम्हें भेजता हूँ। बात कहने से आगे निकल गई तो क्या कहूँ, चुप रहूं। बात कहने से आगे निकल गई तो क्या कहूँ, बस चुप रहूं। और फूलों सा प्रतीक्षा का मीठा जोड़ सहूं। नीरव में कुछ चुने हुए फूल तुम्हारे नाम सहेजता हूँ, अपना मौन तुम्हें भेजता हूँ। कितना सुंदर उपालंब है। ये कविता मेरा ख्याल है कि कवि ने इसी नाम की लड़की को संबोधित करके लिखी है। खैर, बहरहाल कविता संग्रह में एक नयापन है, नए पुराने का मिलन है। कहीं छंदमय रूप है तो कहीं मुक्त स्वर है, कहीं प्रयोग है तो कहीं रहस्य है। सच तो ये है कि कविताएं अपनी विविधता से पाठक को पूरी तरह सम्मोहित करने की क्षमता रखती हैं। परत दर परत भावनाओं को खोलती जाती हैं और उतनी ही सरलता से कागज पर फैलती जाती हैं। शब्दों का चयन बड़े ही एहतियात के साथ किया गया है। भावनाओं की सहजता कहीं भी शब्दों की क्लिष्टता में नहीं अटकती, बल्कि निर्विरोध होकर धारा प्रवाह चलती है। कविताओं में जहाँ समाज की ज्वलंत समस्याएं हैं, वहीं पुरानी मानसिकता से नए युग के टकराव का विवेकपूर्ण सामंजस्य भी है। बड़ी ही बेबाकी के साथ कभी हास परिहास तो कभी व्यंग को उठाया गया है। कहीं भी कोई समझौता नहीं, जो कुछ मन को झंझोड़ता है वही सामने दिखाई देता है। कविताओं में भक्ति भाव को अद्भुत शैली में बड़ी ही सुंदरता के साथ वर्णित किया गया है। इनमें माधुर्य की पराकाष्ठा है। पढ़ते हुए मन बार बार मुग्ध होता रहता है। अपनी विशेषताओं के कारण कई बार तो पुस्तक पढ़ते हुए बाइस्कोप देखने जैसा अनुभव होता है। डब्बे के अंदर चलचित्र की तरह कुछ उभरता है और कानों में आवाजें गूंजने लगती है। दिल्ली का लाल किला देख, आगरे का ताजमहल देख, नौमन की रानी देख, मूंछों वाला राजा देख। और इस क्रम में विभिन्न रंगों से अनेकों सवाल जवाब से साक्षात्कार होता रहता है। पाठकों का मन कविताओं की कोमलता झंकृत करती रहती है, बार बार पढ़ने की लालसा जगाती है। कहीं कोई पंक्ति व्याकुल कर देती है तो दूसरी ओर कोई और पंक्ति शांति और समर्पण की शीतल छाया में बैठा देती है। अलग अलग कविताएं अलग अलग प्रकार से तृप्त करती हैं, मन को बेधती भी हैं, सहलाती भी हैं। आखिर में मैं यही कहना चाहूंगी कि स्वयं से परिचय के रूप में परीक्षित सिंह ने हिंदी साहित्य को एक बेजोड़ और सशक्त तोहफा दिया है। आशा है इसका लाभ हर वर्ग के पाठक उठाएंगे। इस संग्रह की ख्याति दूर दूर तक पहुंचे, इसकी कविताएं खुद अपनी आवाज उठाएं। इसी शुभकामना के साथ आज के कवि परीक्षित सिंह को मेरी ओर से हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं। धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद मृदुला जी। बहुत ही एक रोमांचक तरीके से आपने जैसे बताया कविताओं की कोमलता, मखमली जैसा स्वरूप, और जिस तरह से आपने विश्लेषण किया इन कविताओं का, तो ऐसा लग रहा था कि कविताओं पे भी आपने कविता लिखी है। तो बहुत ही सुंदर स्वरूप दिखाया आपने, बहुत ही सुंदर स्वरूप दिखाया। धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। नाउ may request Miss Mandira Ghosh for her remarks about the book There Was a Girl I Loved Once.
Thank you, Dr. Usha Mojamuchi, for your kind remarks and also for giving us a brief introduction. Good afternoon, friends, for your virtual presence. Thanks, Dr. Pariksith Singh ji, and I congratulate you from bottom of my heart. And also thanks a lot, Shri K. Jayakumar, for telling us not only about poetry, his poetry, but about Indian philosophy also, from Isha Upanishads to other remarks. And above all, Mridula Pradhan, for your awesome explanation of his Hindi poetry. I am fortunate here to be associated with all three languages that has been mentioned in this program, English, Hindi, and Bengali. Mridulaji, I liked what you said about the bioscope. As a small child, we used to watch bioscope in our localities, and his poems as gives the images of those days along with the reality, virtual and reality both. When Dr. Pariksith requested me to write the introduction to the book, There Was a Girl I Loved Once, I considered myself as fortunate as I found the book as unique and distinct. I will be reading few lines from the introduction, which I penned down, but before that I would like to read his lines, with to begin my talk. Her smile was sky, her touch was earth. He saw in her eyes a night full of stars, and the forehead of the moon, the limbs of space. In her laughter, he heard giggle of waves. As Jayakumar already mentioned, she as Prakriti, a direct reference to the Shankha philosophy or Indian philosophy. She as Prakriti was the girl whom he loved. She can be his mother, as he said so, motherland, also mentioned by him, also beloved, friend, sister, sister-in-law, or it is a celebration of womanhood. His sensitive heart speaks for the destitute women too. A voice of wooden huts and thatched roof, of poor women tilling fields. Expressions like the world was only profiles to her face, and many such are indeed commendable. There are about 24 poems in the book. All the poems are without any title and start with the sentence, "There was a girl I loved once," and also ends with the same sentence. There are beautiful sketches are done along with the poems, which Jayakumarji has already mentioned. Writes the poet, all universe is a moment, and the moment is now. Poem number 20. Indeed, time and space connect in a dot-like moment, as if he's speaking here as the Buddhist philosophers and surrenders to Shankar philosophy. Destiny or the Prakriti or the nature. He is a lover of nature and he has great respect for women, that already been said by all the writers. The poems are full of, at the same time, mystic as well as logical. Logical because he is a scientific minded, and mystic because he is a poet. I feel so. The poems are deeply moving, inspiring, and sound sometimes like a hymn, as if the poet, talking of the women as surreal hymn, sublime hymn, life of women are like sublime hymns. Now, before I read one poem, that is poem number 5, I will speak a little bit about from the introduction which I have written. Considering myth and history, linear and circular time, poetry with metaphysics, and above science and spirituality, the verses take us from the unconsciousness to conscious, from darkness to light as expression. The same moon upon her forehead, stars glimmering in clutch of her hair, speak volumes of poet's talent and command over his diction and language, and also love is for beauty of the earth, Mother Nature, and his beloved. He also informs not only of the positive side of the nature or the Prakriti, but also of the negative side. Nature read in truth and law, as famously said by Thomas Hardy. Here he talks about the assault of the innocent of the girls and the daughters, and the poet, like all of us, is perturbed, is anguished. As Kali consort of Shiva, he is portrayed not only as someone very calm, but also she is portrayed as a vast, terrifying mother. But she is also compassionate mother. As a creator and destroyer of this universe, there's a reference to the Tandava dance of Shiva. As he pens, he moved to her rhythm. The constant longing turned to constant touch in a dance of the oneness and duality. Shiva's dance, as we all know by now, is the dance of subatomic matter, as penned by Fibs of Kafra in the Tao of Physics. It is well known that Shiva is corpse without Shakti or energy. Shakti, as the poet, is familiar with his great thoughts from Shankar philosophy and Shaivism also. Space and time connect the entire galaxies, rotate and revolve as fundamental principle of Prakriti, matter, and the cosmos in several of his poems. In the perception beyond senses, she becomes the goddess. She goes beyond the sensuality and becomes the goddess whom he loves. The poet's unfulfilled desire asks, is she a dream or just illusion or reality? This is again the philosophy or the concept of Hinduism of Maya and illusion or unreal. He writes also on Mirabai. Through her strings of Tanpura plays the vibrant music and wonderful poetry. As she is the Indian feminist, she is wonderfully portrayed by his love, because his poems become the journey towards himself. In his Hindi poems that Mridulaji has so well explained, he is perturbed and astonished that how can another life she can carry in her womb another life. Then he also understands the true meaning of existence and moves from being to being, from existence to existence. To conclude, I really like the last paragraph of the poem number 5. As the heart is an ocean, a wide expanse, and move upon move, wave upon wave, blue upon blue. Indeed, the heart is an ocean. As the golden shore of the ocean, at the golden shore of the ocean, the poet finds himself no longer alone, but maybe with the girl he once loved. As he pens, all this world was she. As he widened in she grew into the universe whom he desired. I congratulate the poet and thanks India International Center, all of you in the India International Center Library, for giving us this opportunity to speak on these two wonderful books. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandiraji. Mandiraji said that the 24 poems are mystic and logical, and I think they are mystically magical. But all the 24 poems. Before I turn to the author, I would like to request, since Mr. Jaikumar has to leave, he's traveling. Would you like to give your final comments before you leave? Over to you, Mr. Jaikumar.
Yeah, it was interesting to listen to Dr. Pariksith Singh, because we might read the poem and understand a few things, but the poet's word is the final word. And when he explained, I think the process of arriving at these wonderful ideas and metaphors and lines became even more evident. In fact, that his explanation has added more glamour and gravity and conviction to his poetry, because he has explained the way in which he sort of approach this subject or gradually grow into this subject. It is very natural. It is not an artificially constructed poem. It has a naturally. I think that is the beauty of this poem. And on the one side, he sees the physical problems of people, the body's problems, but the physician might stop there, but the poet in Dr. Singh will transcend that and go somewhere else to understand what exactly is the real problem. And there is no real problem, there is only the real truth. And I think that gives a whole different perspective on life. I think that is why these poems are important. And the times that we live today calls for poems like this, which takes away the kind of, what is it? The blind that is around us. Maya, as the earlier people used to call, but all of us have our own limited visions. Maya might be an old word, maybe a loaded word, but all of us have limited, distorted visions. So this kind of poetry gives us a spectacle with a broader vision. Thank you very much. I don't have to add much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Jaikumar.
I take your leave. I just switch off and maybe I'll catch the train. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Singh, as Mr. Jaikumar said, that poetry is romancing truth. And truth is, it comes from the quality of life. And I would also, call it, sometimes take it as its perception that one builds over the years about certain things. So, at the same time, when you have titled the first book, There Was a Girl I Loved Once, and you have described different avatars of womanhood. It could be mother, it could be daughter, it could be friend, it could be beloved, or whatever. But then I would have liked that there was a girl I loved. Why once upon a time? Because you continue loving the motherhood, or the womanhood of the person that you really have been associated with. So would like to hear from you on this.
That's a very perceptive question. And before I start, I do want to thank Mandira ji for introducing my book 5 years ago and mentoring me and blessing this attempt. And that was very kind, of such a kind gesture, because at that time my poetry was not really known, even though I'd been writing. And so her gentle presence, and again, the presence of the woman, the mother's touch, blessing the book was very helpful, gave me the confidence to be able to present it to the world. So there was a girl I loved once, and it's an interesting title, but for me, it was a very interesting experience. See, when you love, at least the way I felt it, there's duality. You love someone else. And then you're always trying to figure out the mystery of the beloved, because the beloved is always full of the unknown. You don't know, you're seeking the beloved. And that's the beauty of love. And you give yourself up, you surrender your own limited self to the exquisite, remarkable mysteriousness, the mystical nature of the beloved. And in this case, the beloved is not only my own mother or my sister or my friend or my motherland, but also the beloved whom I aspire to in my spiritual aspiration or psychological seeking, that I think every human being has a desire to go back to that comfort of that innocence of birth and childhood and being preconception, being or being born, before being born, the comfort of the womb. So there was a moment when I realized that the one who loves is also a part of the beloved.
Yes.
So the divine mother, or the motherly principle, or the eternal feminine whom I love is actually not, I'm not separate from her. There was no time when I was separate from her. So that once that internal connection was felt, then suddenly I realized that there was a time I loved the woman, but now at least there's a deeper connection where there is no one to love, that all is she, all is the divine beloved in different forms, all kinds of forms, which we humans give a name to, but everything else is our partial way of seeing things. And so this person who thinks he is loving the divine beloved itself is an illusion. And so perhaps a deeper connection is felt with the eternal feminine. And that's where this intriguing title was put in. And I hope, that makes you smile and feel that touch of the Divine Mother.
Yes. Yeah. While you have written 24 poems, is there one of them that is very close to your heart? And we would like you to read that out for us.
There are a couple, but I like one of them, number 15. And I like it especially because it came out of a very intense feeling of being, but also the intense anguish of not being able to describe the eternal mother and the eternal feminine. So that anguish of not being able to write, and yet I have to write about you, and let me write it. So this poem came out, and it was satisfying as a poet because in English, a certain rhythm was accomplished in this poem. So I liked it personally. This is number 15, and I'll read it for you. There was a girl I loved once. If I could draw with diamond lights across the face of sky, If I could draw with diamond lights across the face of sky, mix space and glass with silver light, and clump them as clay, and on the lattice of pure absence, sculpt a living shape, I could create a semblance of her, perhaps her presence portray. If I could touch with human eyes and with my fingers see, if I could hush my feverish brain and carve stone into song, and make it burn and slowly spread the fragrance of her name, each atom as incense afire in cool gathered flame, if I could transform feeling into fragrance and sense into flame, I would chisel a body of glow with beats of pulse that I am, and build its home on the unseen altar of light and crystalline space. And I could draw a face of her, perhaps her presence portray. There was a girl I loved once.
How beautiful. How beautiful it is. Thank you very much for that. It is indeed very, very beautiful and very touching actually. मृदुला जी, आप कुछ आपने तो 2-3 points तो पढ़े एक स्वयं से परिचय से, एक कोई आपको जो खास प्रभावित कर गई पोइम उस पुस्तक से, तो आप जो शेयर करना चाहते हैं हमसे, मृदुला जी?
अब परीक्षित जी को कहिए, पढ़े हैं कोई?
हिंदी में आप पढ़िए।
हिंदी में
उनकी तो पढ़ दी हमने, पहले ही पढ़ दी उनकी तो।
हाँ, मतलब कोई खास एक जो, जैसे आपने पहली वाली और दूसरी वाली पढ़ ली, और खास कोई जो आपको बहुत प्रभावित कर गए।
अच्छा, जब तुम शून्य सी हो जाती हो, जब तुम शून्य सी हो जाती हो और स्वयं के रहस्य में खो जाती हो, अपने आप से अनुपस्थित होकर स्तब्ध मौन से शब्दों को पिरो जाती हो। जब तुम शून्य सी हो जाती हो, यह शून्य का रूप जो तुमने ओढ़ लिया, अपने आप को सभी आकारों से मोड़ लिया, इस शून्य को कभी रिक्त न समझ लेना, इसी शून्य में तुमने ब्रह्मांड को फिर से जोड़ लिया। जब तुम शून्य सी हो जाती हो, अगण्य झंझावात छिपे हैं आज तुम्हारी शांति में, अनगिनत सूर्य चंद्रमा सितारे तुम्हारी कांति में, मृत्यु भी जिसकी श्रृंखला में एक कड़ी है और तुम इन सब के बीच स्थिर क्रांति में। जब तुम शून्य सी हो जाती हो, स्वयं में रहस्य में खो जाती हो।
बहुत बहुत सुंदर, बहुत ही सुंदर, बहुत ही सुंदर। मंदिरा जी, आप कुछ शेयर करना चाहेंगे?
I will read poem number 5.
Yes.
This is my favorite one.
Yeah.
I have read 2-3 lines already, but I will read the entire poem. There was a girl I loved once. What seems to be the heart's throb were only waves of a vast ocean breaking through, as though a cage lying by the shore. As the cage shattered with rust and age, its guilt cracking under the intense pressure and suffocation, the constant pounding of the vast upon its false image. And the heart is an ocean, a wide expanse of the wave upon wave, blue upon blue, no longer attempting to hold to or embrace that which is already is, always was. So slowly, silently, the waters fill breath and nostril, the smell of the salt and the sea and the lips and the lungs and the eyes and the ears pulled, dragged into depths. Only the shattering of rocks and the blue spray at the golden shore, no longer alone, returning to the center of the horizon, less no longer one, but many, and all. There was a girl I loved once.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Now, I must say that, the poet, the way he has expressed and, kind of woven the fabric of the femininity, whether it is comparing the nature, the motherland, the
Yes.
Shakti, the energy, all, woven in such a way that it looks, it's full of heart and soul. And it's, you feel like it's like a meandering river flowing through, those meadows and mountains,
Yes.
and creates a sound that is so soothing, that is so serene, that it's music to the ears. And I think that when Mridulaji read the Hindi version, it is so melodious, and of course Mandiraji and Dr. Singh himself. And I think that when Mandira said, magic, mystic, and logical, and
Yes.
it came to my mind, it's purely mystically magical, and there is no
Okay.
exaggeration of this. It's so beautiful. And indeed, we are honored to host you today for the discussion on these two books, beautiful books. And I thank, on behalf of India International Center and Poetry Society of India, to the author who has actually given us opportunity to discuss his wonderful two books, to all the panelists, to Jay Kumar in his absence, to Mridulaji and Mandiraji for being with us this afternoon. Thank you very much once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Mridulaji,
you.
Mandiraji. Thank you, Ushaji.
Thank you all.